Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Southern Sorcery. Thanks so much for stopping by. We appreciate it. Today, we are super excited to talk about a new build with a really old face. And I mean really old, because it's a vampire, and they're super old. This is Edgar Markov. I'm super excited for a bunch of new people to get to build this deck, as he is finally getting a reprint in the upcoming set, Innistrad Remastered. Edgar was originally printed as a pre-con commander back in the day, and that was the only way to get him up until now. So he was up to a crazy, jaw-dropping, eye-popping $100+ He is the best vampire commander. Don't let anybody tell you any different. He by far has the most value in the command zone. So yeah, now that he will hopefully be following the same trend as Ur-Dragon I think was also near $100 before it got its reprint back in Commander Masters over the summer. But now Ur-Dragon is down to like $20 or so. So much more affordable, and hopefully Edgar will end up with in the same area. Even he's already come down in price some since they announced it. I think he's down to like $60 now. But anyway, so we figure a bunch of people are going to be looking for this particular build upcoming in 2025. So we went ahead and built it. Before we jump into the video, though, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button down there below. We're a small channel. It helps us out so much. Jump down in the comments and let us know if this is your first video you've ever watched of ours. We will comment back, and we appreciate all the interaction. Trolls are welcome in our comments section, because guess what? It doesn't matter. It's still a comment, and it helps the algorithm. So yeah, jump down in there, and let's get into this. So Edgar is pretty much, like I said, the go-to commander for vampires, and there's a few reasons why. First, he gives you access to 3 colors, so that's going to give you access to all of the best vampires. White, red, black is pretty much the only color vampires are in, at least ones that matter. I don't even know. Are there blue vampires? Are there green vampires? Maybe there are. Maybe there's not. I don't know. Either way, these are the best colors for vampires, and then, of course, there's lots of great support spells in those colors as well. But secondly, he is the poster child for Imminence as a keyword. Imminence is not something that Wizards has done a whole lot of, but Imminence essentially says your commander can do something even from the command zone, which is gross. So like Ur-Dragon reduces the cost of dragons by 1, whether he's on the battlefield or whether he's in the command zone. Edgar, however, makes a 1/1 token vampire anytime you cast a vampire. So from the command zone, if I cast a vampire, I get to make a second vampire. That is so gross. So it's really easy to go wide in this deck. And then thirdly, once you actually do end up casting him, his ability is going to come in and immediately buff all those vampires and token vampires that you've been casting and creating up until the time as you cast him. Because when you attack with him, he puts a +1/+1 counter on every vampire you control. And he has haste, so you can do it the turn he comes out. It's real gross, guys. I'm not kidding around here. This is a really good deck and a really fun commander to play. Okay, so there are a couple of different ways to go with this. We're going to kind of lean into 2 main ways. The first one, of course, is to make these vampire tokens and go wide, swing out with them all, and overrun our opponents. The second way we're going to kind of go with this is Aristocrats. So Aristocrats means when when a creature we control dies, we'll get paid off for that. And with Edgar supplying us with a steady stream of fodder, we'll have tons of these 1/1 vampires to either swing out with or sacrifice to something else to pay off for us to draw cards or gain life or make our opponents lose life or them sacrifice creatures or whatever the case is. So it does work hand in hand with the go wide, because we don't care if our creatures die. For the most part, we're going to make a massive army, we're going to kill it, or we're going to swing out, and we don't care whether you block it or take the damage, because if you don't block it, you're going to take damage. And if you do block it and it dies, you're probably still going to take damage, and then we're going to get stuff in return. It's a very straightforward game plan. It's easy to understand, and it's very fun. So it's great for new players. Today's video sponsor is Nerd Gear Gaming. With innovative original new products like the Playmat Sanctuary and the Commander Essentials Kit, Nerd Gear is for nerds by nerds. A newer company, they've had massively successful Kickstarter campaigns along with a #1 new release on Amazon. They've got lots of 5-star reviews, and the products speak for themselves, like life counters, dry erase tokens, spin downs, and various other products. Check out their website for some sweet deals, including an extra 5% off when you use our code Southern at checkout. And yes, that discount does stack with whatever other promotions they're running. You can also find them on Amazon with Prime shipping. Just search Nerd Gear or use the links in the description. So check out nerdgear.gg. So with no further ado, let's just get into the cards. First up, like we said, we've got Edgar Markov. He is the commander of the deck, and he is 3 red, white, black, and has Eminence. So whenever you cast another vampire spell, if Edgar is on the battlefield or in the command zone, you make a 1/1 black vampire creature token. He has first strike and haste, and whenever he attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. Gross. So with no further, so with the commander out of the way, let's jump into the rest of the creatures. It is a heavy creature theme. So we've got 36 creatures. Most of them are vampires. The first one is going to be Baron Bertram Greywater. This is a newer creature from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. It is 2 white-black for a vampire noble. It says whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, make a 1/1 black vampire rogue creature token with lifelink. So with Edgar in the command zone and him on the battlefield, Edgar makes a token, Baron makes a token. Gross. And then you can pay 1 and a black and sacrifice another creature or artifact to draw a card. So that gives us a sack outlet and card draw. Next, we have Blood Artist. This is 1 and a black for a vampire, and it says whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Then we've got Bloodletter of Aklazotz. It's 1 black, black, black for a vampire demon with flying, and it says if an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice as much life instead. We also have Bloodline Keeper for 2 black, black. For a vampire with flying, you can tap it and make a 2/2 black vampire creature with flying, or at instant speed, you can pay a black, transform Bloodline Keeper, and flip it if you control 5 or more vampires. So let's flip it and look what it flips into. So it flips into Lord of Lineage, a vampire that is 5/5 with flying, and it says other vampire creatures you control get +2/+2, and then you can tap it to make a 2/2 black vampire creature token with flying. So you're going to be able to tap it and make that 2/2 on either side. The one side just gives other vampires +2/+2 and is a 5/5, and the first side just doesn't have that and is a 3/3. But very good. And then we've got Bloodthirsty Conqueror. This is another new vampire from Foundations. It's 3 black, black, has flying and death touch, and it says when an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. So just a way for us to life gain. We also have Captivating Vampire for 1 black, black. It's a 2/2. Other vampires get +1/+1, and then you can tap 5 vampires you control, gain control of a target creature. It becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. So you can literally just steal your opponent's stuff and turn it into a vampire, which is pretty cool because that's what vampires do, right? They run around, they bite people, and they turn them into vampires. So this is kind of like that. You take it and turn it into a vampire. We also have Champion of Dusk. It is 3 black, black for a vampire knight. When it enters the battlefield, you draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of vampires you control. So super good to refill our hands once we've cast 3 or 4 vampires, and then we make the vampire tokens. Then we cast Champion of Dusk. We're going to draw 6 cards, lose 6 life. You see how this is very good. We also have Charismatic Conqueror. It's 1 and a white, has vigilance, and whenever an artifact or creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, they may have it. They may tap it. If they don't, you make a 1/1 vampire creature with a lifelink. So more token generation. We also have Cavalino. First of the Blessed. This is 1 white, black for a vampire, and it says whenever you attack, target attacking vampire that isn't a demon becomes a demon in addition to its other types. And it gains whenever this creature dies, draw a card and create a tapped 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature token with flying. So you're going to be able to say, hey, this vampire is also now a demon, and then whenever it dies, I'm going to draw a card and I'm going to make a 4/3 demon. So this is really good, and board wipes, we don't care. Again, this the payoff here is nice. We also have Cordial Vampire. It's 2 black, and it says whenever it or another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. So that can buff up your team, especially if you have a sack outlet and you want to sacrifice 2 or 3 vampires and then buff up the whole rest of your team. We've also got Creeping Bloodsucker for 1 and a black. At the beginning of your upkeep, Creeping Bloodsucker deals 1 damage to each opponent, and then you gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. Also, we have Cruel Celebrant for white-black. Whenever it or another creature or planeswalker you control die, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. We also have Dusk Legion Duelist for 1 and a white. has vigilance, and whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on it, draw a card. It only triggers once a turn, but card draw is card draw. We've also got Dusk Legion Sergeant, 1 and a black for a vampire soldier with Menace, and you can pay 1 and a black and sacrifice it, and then each non-token vampire you control gains persist until the end of turn. So when it dies, if it has no +1/+1 or no -1/-1 counters on it, you can return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a -1/-1 counter. So this is sort of board wipe insurance. We also have Dusk Legion Zealot for 1 and a black, and when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card and you lose a life. We've also got Falcon Wrath Pit Fighter. It is 1 red for a 2/1 vampire, and you can pay 1 and a red to discard a card, sacrifice a vampire, and then you draw 2 cards, and you activate this only if an opponent lost life this turn. Sometimes you need to draw cards, guys, so having this there is really nice. We've also got Forerunner of the Legion. It is 2 and a white for a vampire knight. When it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for a vampire card and reveal it, then shuffle your library and put that card back on top of it. And then whenever another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, a target creature gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. We've got High Society Hunter up next. It is 3 black. This one is also from Foundations. It has flying, and whenever this creature attacks, you can sacrifice another creature, and if you do, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. And whenever another non-token creature dies, draw a card. We've also got Indulgent Aristocrat for a black. Has lifelink, and you can pay 2 to sacrifice a creature and put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. Insolent Neonate is up next. 1 red for a vampire with Menace. You can discard a card and sacrifice Insolent Neonate to draw a card. Then we've got Knight of the Eban Legion. It is 1 black for a 1/2. You can pay 2 and a black, and it gets +3/+3 gains Death Touch until the end of turn. At the beginning of your end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Knight of the Eban Legion. We've also got Legion Lieutenant for a white and a black, a vampire knight, and other vampires you control get +1/+1. We've also got Master of Dark Rites for a black, and you can tap it and sacrifice another creature to add 3 black. You can only spend this mana to cast vampire, cleric, or demon spells. We've also got Mavrin Fane, Dusk Apostle. Whenever 1 or more non-token vampires you control attack, create a 1/1 white vampire creature token with lifelink. So just other ways to generate tokens. We've also got Morbid Opportunist. This is a human rogue. Whenever 1 or more other creatures die, draw a card. This only triggers once a turn. We also have Rakish Heir for 2 and a red. Whenever a vampire you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. We've also got Razaketh the Foul-Blooded. It is 5 and 3 black for a demon, has flying and trample, and then you can pay 2 life, sacrifice another creature, search your library for a card, and put that card into your hand, and then shuffle your library. Guys, this is insane. We can go get any card we want. All we got to do is pay 2 life and sack one of the 1/1s that Edgar made for us. Very good. Next we have Sanctum Seeker for 2 black. Whenever a vampire you control attacks, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So that's going to be potentially a game ender. Stromkirk Captain is 1 black-red for a vampire soldier with first strike. Other vampires you control get +1/+1 and have first strike. We've also got Vampire Gormand, 1 and a black for a vampire. It says whenever this creature attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, draw a card, and this creature can't be blocked this turn. We've also got Vampire Socialite, black-red for a vampire noble, has Menace, and whenever it enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, put a 1/1 counter on each other vampire you control. As long as an opponent lost life this turn, each other vampire you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter. That can be very good here. We also have Vengeful Blood Witch. Whenever this creature or another creature you control dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. We've got Vicious Conquistador. This is 1 black, and it says whenever it attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. We've also got Viscera Seer for a black, and you can sack a creature to scry 1. Multiple sack outlets is necessary in an Aristocrat's build. We also have Veto Thorn of the Dusk Rose for 2 and a black. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. And then you can pay 3 black, and creatures you control gain lifelink until the end of turn. This can be a game ender very easily, and it also can go infinite with Bloodthirsty Conqueror. And then lastly, we have Welcoming Vampire for 2 and a white, has flying, and whenever 1 or more other creatures with power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This only triggers once a turn, but anytime you make the 1/1 from Edgar, you're going to get that. So that rounds out our creatures. We've got some instants and sorceries up next, so First, we have Olivia's Wrath. 4 and a black. Each non-vampire creature gets -X until the end of turn, where X is the number of vampires you control. We also have Painful Lesson, 2 and a black. For a sorcery that says target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. And then we also have Patriarch's Bidding, 3 black for a sorcery. Each player chooses a creature type, and each player returns all creature cards of a type chosen this way from their graveyard to the battlefield. So that's a way for us to get back a whole bunch of vampires, potentially. Under instance now, we have got Akroma's Will. This is easily a game finisher for us. It's 3 and a white. You can choose one, and if you control a commander, you can choose both. Creatures you control gain flying, vigilance, and double strike until the end of turn. Creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible, and protection from each color until the end of turn. So essentially, you're giving all of your creatures double strike and unblockable and indestructible. So really good, especially in a go-wide strategy where we're swinging out with a bunch of creatures. We have next up Dawn's Truce, a newer card from Bloomburrow. You can gift a card whenever you cast this spell, and then you and permanents you control gain hexproof until the end of turn. If the gift was promised, they also gain indestructible until the end of turn. Next, we have Enlightened Tutor. This is 1 white for us to go get an artifact or an enchantment card and put it on top of our battlefield. Put it on top of our library. And then we have Flawless Maneuver. It's 2 and a white, and it says if you control your commander, you can pay it without, or you can cast it without paying its mana cost. Creatures you control gain indestructible until the end of turn. We also have some removal. We've got Generous Gift, which is 2 and a white to remove destroy a target permanent, and its controller makes a 3/3 elephant. And then we have Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares. Each of these are going to exile a target creature. And then we also have Plum the Forbidden for 1 and a black. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice 1 or more creatures. When you do, copy this spell for each creature sacrificed this way. You draw a card and you lose 1 life. So you can potentially draw a ton of cards with this. Next up, we've got Artifacts. And under Artifacts, we've got some fun ones here. First up, though, we've just got our normal mana rocks. We've got Arcane Signet, we've got Felwar Stone, and we've got Soul Ring and Thought Vessel. Each of those are going to tap for mana. And then we've got some fun ones. First, we've got Bolas Citadel, which is crazy and gross. It is 3 and 3 black. We can look at the top card of our library anytime, and then we can play lands and cast spells from the top of our library. If we cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana cost rather than pay its mana cost. Pay life equal to its mana value instead of paying its mana cost. So very good, especially because we have a lot of ways to gain life. And then we can sacrifice 10 non-land permanents and tap this. Each opponent loses 10 life. So if we want to sack 10 tokens or 10 creatures or whatever, we can do that. But that one's a really fun one. We also have Idol of Oblivion. This is really good in a token deck. Cost 2 for an artifact that says tap it and draw a card. Activate only if you created a token this turn. We're probably going to be making tokens, so it's just an extra card each turn. Then you can pay 8 and sacrifice it to make a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. I've never done that. We've also got Phyrexian Altar. This is going to let us sacrifice our creatures and add a mana of any color to our mana pool. We've also got Skull Clamp. Skull Clamp is insanely good in this. We can equip it to a target creature. That creature gets +1, -1, and then whenever the equipped creature dies, you draw 2 cards with an equipped cost of 1. So we pay 1 and we can equip it to one of our 1/1 vampires. It will give it +1, -1, killing it, and then we will draw 2 cards. So effectively, Skull Clamp reads, pay 1, sacrifice a creature, and draw 2 cards. Really, really good. We also have the One Ring. The One Ring costs 4, and it's indestructible for a legendary artifact. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. And then you can tap it and add a burden counter to the ring, and then you draw a card for each burden counter on the One Ring. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burden counter on the One Ring. And then lastly, we have Vanquisher's Banner. It costs 5. Vanquisher's Banner enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1. And when you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, you draw a card. Very good. Now we're going to cast a vampire, we're going to draw a card, and we're going to make a token vampire. I mean, the value in this deck is just crazy. And then lastly, we have some enchantments. We've got Anointing Procession, which says if you would make a token, make twice that many tokens instead. So Edgar would make 2 every time we cast a vampire. We also have Caretaker's Talent, this 2 and a white. Whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This only triggers once each turn, and then you can level it up to level 2 or level 3. Level 2 says when it becomes level 2, make a token. That's a token of a copy of a target token that you control. So you can make a copy of a token, so a token of a token. And then the last one is creature tokens you control get +2/+2. So in the late game, we can make all those 1/1s, 3/3s. You also have Dark Prophecy. It costs 3 black. Whenever a creature you control dies, you draw a card and lose 1 life. So Aristocrat's payoff there is huge. We also have Grave Pact. This is 1 and 3 black, and it says whenever a creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each other player sacrifices a creature. So this is a board wipe waiting to happen. We're probably almost always going to have more creatures than our opponents, and this gets around indestructible because you're making people sacrifice creatures. This is not going to make you a very popular person at the table. Next, we have Phyrexian Arena. This is 1 black for an enchantment. You, at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card and lose a life. So extra cards. And speaking of extra cards, we have Trouble in Pairs. 2 white for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent attacks you with 2 or more creatures, draws their second card each turn, or casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card. This can draw a lot of cards. It also says if an opponent would begin an extra turn, that player skips that turn instead. And then lastly, we have Vampiric Rites. This is 1 black for an enchantment. You pay 1 and a black, sack a creature, you gain a life and draw a card. So we put in a lot of ways to draw cards because we want to keep casting more and more vampires, which is going to have Edgar make more and more vampires, and then we can sacrifice those vampires to draw more cards, to make more vampires. It gets out of control. It's super fun. Quickly, let's look, though, at some of the utility lands. We're not going to look at them just lands that tap for mana, though. They're in here. Check out the deck list. It's on Moxfield. But first, we're going to see Castle Lochthwain. Its ability at the bottom, 1 black, tap it, draw a card. Then you lose life equal to the number of cards in your hand. So we've got some card draw stapled in here. We've got Cavern of Souls, which is going to let us choose a creature type. And then when you tap Cavern of Souls for any 1 color of mana, to cast that spells of that creature type, they cannot be countered. So that's nice to be able to get our stuff out without having to worry about them being countered. We also have Fountain Port. This is another newer card. It's from Bloomborough, and you can pay 2, tap it, sacrifice a token to draw a card, or you can pay 4 to tap it and make a treasure token. We also have Menace Tirith. You can pay 1 and a white and tap it to draw a card, but you can only activate that if you attacked with 2 or more creatures this turn. But more card draw, the better. We also have Phyrexian Tower, which is a sack outlet. You can sacrifice a creature and add black. Then we also have Vault of the Archangel, and you can pay 2 white and tap it, and then creatures you control gain Death Touch and lifelink until the end of turn. We also have Voldaren Estate. This one you can pay a life and add a mana of any color to cast a vampire, or you can pay 5 to create a blood token, which you can then sacrifice the blood token to draw a card. And then lastly, we have Westvale Abbey, and you can pay 5 and tap it and pay 1 life. You can put a 1/1 white and black human cleric creature token onto the battlefield, or you can pay 5 and tap it, sacrifice 5 creatures, and then you can transform Westvale Abbey. And when you transform Westvale Abbey, it turns into Ormondal Profane Prince. It is a demon with flying, lifelink, indestructible, and haste, and it's a 9/7. So kind of out of nowhere, you flip this, and you can maybe catch your opponents by surprise with this a little bit. But that's it. That's the whole build. Edgar is really, really good, and vampires are super fun, and just honestly a super popular creature type. You know, elves are popular, dragons are popular, vampires are popular. So it's a very fun deck. Again, the game plan is pretty straightforward and easy, and extremely, extremely powerful. So again, we hope you had a good time, and thanks for spending your time with us. Again, jump down into the comments. Let us know what we missed. What do you put in your Edgar Markov deck that we didn't? Or, you know, what did we put in that you didn't think was very good? Please like and subscribe. It helps us out more than you'll ever know. We love you, and thank you, and have a great day, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Bye!